Welcome back, YouTube. So, in today's price update for Dogecoin, this is what you want to see. This is the perfect example of when we were charting. I remember back in like December, November, and we're hoping to consolidate in this range. This right here, this consolidation, this is what you would call an ideal situation. This is what we're looking to pinpoint, like this next consolidation period here before you get your next leg up. You have a flattening of the EMAs. This is ideal, really, for the coin, because technically what you're doing is you're consolidating at a higher high, right? You're looking at this run, this movement in legs, right? So you have this leg here that was around the 6 cent mark. You come up and you have this next consolidation range. You'll have the run, and then you have the consolidation range. And the goal technically is to not give up the gains during that run. And this is where we're consolidating at. We're consolidating literally on the Fibonacci 382 line above the liquidity zone, where we've pretty much gained liquidity from over the last 2-3 years. So this is really good here as well. And we're having, even during moments of low volume, where no one's necessarily selling, no one's necessarily buying, but the asset is maintaining these levels here. You have a flattening of the 14, which is this yellow line. The 72 is flattening, and the 200 is still rising, but it's flattening. So this is pretty good here as well, because this 200 technically, as long as Doge is above it, it will continue to rise slightly. But it'll, obviously it's flattening out, right? So this here is the 200-day now coming into this green Fibonacci zone above the 0.5 here, which is still well above the top of the liquidity zone here at about 709. So what does this mean going forward, right? So going forward, what we're looking for is on the next leg up, whether that be mass liquidity coming into the market, whether that be Jerome Powell mentioning something about pauses and liquidity coming into the market from like institutions, starting typically like in March or so, because technically March is where institutions typically start to invest after the first quarter, after they get the first quarter earnings out. After they kind of calculate the first quarter earnings, they put out to the public their end of 2023 earnings, how they kind of measured up for like the last year, how they concluded the last year. They're solidified their goals going into the remaining 3 quarters of this year. This is where that money starts to flow into the market. So on the next push, the biggest tell will be obviously once we start getting some crosses here from the 14 and some of these higher indicators. Now, obviously, this is the 72 because I like to deal with a little bit stronger indicators, but you have 14 and 21. You have sometimes people use 14 and 30. You use what number, really the numbers you want. I typically like to use stronger signals, but this is not abnormal for this to, you start seeing these crosses here or start to see this bend of the 14-day. And this is where you're going to have your retest. And obviously, we have very strong zones here at the 945 all the way up here to like 1077 to kind of get range to where those retests are going to be. Another good thing is above where we're at right now, technically speaking, is gap territory. So this is where things outside of this zone right here, you'll have these some pretty significant moves to the upside until you hit some of those walls. And this is remained true on the last 4 tests, really. These have been really big moves, whether to the upside or to the downside. So once that next push of liquidity comes in, you'll see that explosive movement until we hit one of those areas where we start to see some pushback or some sells, shorts, all that kind of good stuff kind of comes in. So ultimately, this is very great. We're consolidated at a higher high. And on the next run, since we were speaking of that, you'll have this run. Typically, you'll have that the back and forth limbo between some of these previous highs here, and then you'll consolidate at a higher high again. So you'll have the run, you'll have the overshoot. Let's just say, for example, we run and it's not. Let's just say it's not the heart of the bull market, but things are just trending up, right? And we'll have this run to, let's say, 16 or 20 cent, right? and that'll be the peak. You get the rejection, the sell off, people are taking profits, shorts are coming in, all that kind of good stuff. And then we consolidate somewhere around like 16 cents at the top of this zone here. Rinse and repeat, right? And then the goal, obviously, for that zone would be to do something similar to this. As you guys know, if we do the big rocket ship candles, you know, you guys, if those of you follow the channel, you know how I feel about that. So that's not something I hope for. I like the steady movements that we're seeing here. Shorts have all but disappeared. Not necessarily disappeared, but they are very minimal. There's not much going on with those, even when times are low volume, which is very interesting. Typically, when there's low volume, they're trying to spike it to get the people to sell or get the assets down. So right now, shorts are very low volume. So they are not doing any of their normal tricks to try and get the asset down. Let's take a look here at Bitcoin. Bitcoin, we had a bit of a green day here at around 45. And we are typically Bitcoin. This is Bitcoin's range here. This is what would you kind of would match it to or parallel it to with Dogecoin is this 40 to 45 range is kind of going to be where it's consolidating the higher high. This is its run. This is where this would be the zone here for like 6 cent Doge. This is the run, and this is the consolidation point here. This would be, this rejection here would be the equivalent. If you want to kind of like overlay the chart, this would be like the equivalent of around that 945 to 11 mark, the rejection here. And this is the range that it's in. And this is what I meant by gap territory, really just overlaying the charts here. So I want to make sure I don't lose anybody. But this is what I meant by the gap territory like on the Dogecoin chart, because things can get explosive relatively quickly in this range here. And you can see this remaining true for Bitcoin. Now, another thing is when I was mentioning the SMAs on Doge and saying that, okay, we kind of get an idea of a cross here to see the momentum or the turn of events. This is what has happened recently with Bitcoin. You see the 14 has crossed the 72. This happened a few days back. So this gave us the signal that this was about to, this is a golden cross. It gave us the signal that this was about to have a leg up, or at least a run up, right? We'll see what it does once it gets to some of these previous rejections. But if you were watching this, you saw this bend below the 72 and literally created a bowl and came right back up. So that is a signal here saying that, okay, this run was to be expected. So we will see how strong this is. We still have some room to go up before we start talking about rejections, another 1,000, 2,000 for Bitcoin before we start talking about rejections. But overall, we do have some liquidity coming into the market. So I'll take Bitcoin shorts really quick. Let's say plus 0.94% on the day. Again, yeah, very minimal action here from short. So no one's taking short positions on these assets just yet. So right now, if the liquidity comes in, they are free to run. So we will see how far they go and see if we get some more green movement. Technically right now, Doge is green. It's over 8 cents. We'll see if we'll break out of this low volume pattern. But right now, shorts are very minimal, and these assets are free to run. So I wanted to provide that update, let you guys know this is ideally what you would look for when you're looking for a consolidation point and getting a very strong floor. Because what happens is, let's say we go up here, we have a major spike, and we get this rejected again. And so now it's not us saying, okay, well, is it going to give up the gains? Is it going to consolidate back down here to liquidity floor? We have a lot of buys in this area that would trigger and should pump the brakes here if we were to have a consolidation from or a rejection here at 891. It doesn't even have to be that extreme. We have a lot of buys here that should kind of act as like a pad or a trampoline to kind of pump the brakes here to stop you from falling back down there. That's the benefit of building out these floors. Anyway, that is my Dogecoin price update. If you have not seen my announcement, check it out in the community section. We're going to have some big changes coming to the channel here soon. So just stay tuned for that. I appreciate all of you guys as we're knocking out 63K. Thank you guys for sharing the channel and believing in it. I appreciate all of you, and I will see you guys in the next video.